Hi, everybody. Cindy Schwartz back from Content Management Services, and I'm joined today again by Adam Ray from TechCentric. Welcome back, Adam.
Hello, Cindy.
We're glad to have you.
Good to be here.
So in part two, today we're going to be continuing to talk about onboarding. And in this segment, we're going to take a look at what does their first week look like. So, you really don't want candidates sitting at home wondering, what is my first week going to look like? Do I have anything planned? So really putting together a comprehensive schedule and dealing with all the various considerations for their first week. So I think first and foremost, you will need, in order to start planning the first week, you're going to need to evaluate who needs to be involved in the training. So is it going to be the hiring manager? Is it going to be colleagues? What systems do they need to be trained on, both internal and also training on the actual job? I think most importantly, though, what is the pace that you want to set? So you want to set realistic expectations for the person, what needs to be covered in week one versus what should be week 2, week 3. We're obviously dealing with a different reality than having people working in an office. So really setting those expectations with the manager from day one, I think is going to go a long way to making the person feel more secure. Ultimately, once you've put together all the list of players and you've thought about what it is you want to train on, at that point, put together the comprehensive schedule, which I recommend sending to the new employee, at least if you can, 2 to 3 days before they start, so they can start planning and thinking about what their first week is going to look like.
That's a good point, Cindy. And typically, if you do provide this information in a physical package, you'll need to convert them into a PDF document and then email it to the employee. Or, alternately, you can add them into your company's cloud storage so the employee can access them from home.
Wonderful. Talking about cloud storage, is it standard what needs to be moved to the cloud per company, or I guess it depends on which systems you have?
Well, first of all, I think most companies at this point are already using cloud services like SharePoint, OneDrive, Dropbox, or Google Drive. So like you said, it's just a matter of making sure that everything is there and that the employee knows how to find it. Typical things for them to get up to speed or to do their actual job, things like Word or Excel documents, company logos or letterhead, a list of software or websites that they'll need to access, and a company directory. As everyone's working from home, it might not be clear how to reach the employees.
Yeah, and I'm thinking an organizational chart. I'm assuming companies still have those. If you have one, it'd be helpful to include in the package. In terms of, you mentioned passwords. What about password security? How do you go about, it depends too, like people might be using their home computers. So how do you go about keeping your password secure?
Good question. So there are tools called password managers, and they basically allow you to store website addresses, usernames, passwords, and then share them with specific team members. What's also great is that when you visit a website, it'll automatically fill in the username and password and log you in. So not only do you not have to remember it, you don't even have to type it in. My favorite password managers are it's called 1Password and LastPass. They cost about $5 per user per month. And again, if your company has a lot of passwords to share, highly recommend it.
Fantastic. Thank you for that technical expertise. So, before we talked about the schedule, but I think there's also the nuance of, making the employee feel comfortable. They're walking into something, they may not even have met anybody face to face. All the interviews may have been done virtually as well. So what are some things that you can do to integrate the person into the team and to make them feel, I guess, sort of welcome? I think the first thing is the first meeting that you should have would be with the hiring manager directly. I think more than anything, just talking about, again, what the expectations of the first week are, and also, setting the tone for being a resource available for questions. I think it's really important, obviously, to meet the team. I think what might be fun before having individual training sessions with each team member might be to have a team virtual lunch or just a team meeting so that the new person can see the dynamic of all the different people, like virtually on the screen, and seeing how they interact with each other. Like who's the interrupter, who's the person who doesn't say anything. You're kind of getting a sense of not just the person on their own, but how they collaborate as a team. I think it's also important to schedule meetings with like other departments. So like maybe the head of payroll, or obviously they're going to need to meet HR, but just cross collaborationally within the first week, who are the most important key players? You can start to introduce more tertiary type, people in the second and third weeks, but who are those key players for week one? And And the next 2 points are based on feedback that I've gotten directly from people that have been onboarded in the last couple of weeks. Schedule time in between meetings. It's very intense looking at the screen, meeting new people, trying to read body language. Also, you have no idea what you're doing. You're trying to figure all this out. So I think it's important when you're doing the schedule to schedule time in between where they can be doing research, they can be practicing, they can be doing all sorts of different things, but also they have that kind of downtime from the intensity of meeting people. And I think also a good idea might be to assign them, 2 or 3 tasks or 2 or 3, I don't want to call them projects because projects tend to be bigger, but 2 or 3 things that they can work on and strategize by themselves before the end of the week. So they feel not just they've met a bunch of people, but there's also kind of like a sense of accomplishment at the end of the week as well. From a tech perspective, Adam, what are the best tools working remotely?
Right. So like I mentioned last week, the biggest disadvantage of working remotely is that you can't just walk over to a colleague's desk and ask them a question, or jump into a conference room to catch up, or even go to their desk and pass over a document. Communicating by email or phone or even text message is not really that effective or that professional for that matter. So my number one recommended tool for working remotely is a company chat program. So with those, you can quickly chat one-on-one or in a group or to your entire team. You can share documents or links. You can post, team or company-wide like updates. You can even include video conferencing. You can jump on a call really quickly. So you can really use them to communicate and stay connected. My favorite apps are Microsoft Teams, previously called Skype for Business. And there's one most people probably haven't heard of, which is called Slack, which I highly recommend.
I've heard Slack's all the rage.
It's excellent.
Yeah. So we use Microsoft Teams. I'm certainly not the tech expert here, but one of the things I love about working collaboratively on Teams is that you were talking about saving documents. You can save Word and Excel documents, and then you don't have to resave them. You can update them in real time, which is an amazing feature. So really fun. Well, I thank you, Adam, again for your time. In our next and last session next time, we're going to talk about post-onboarding considerations, getting you from a tech standpoint and all else that you need working in this new virtual reality. We'll see you then. Thanks so much.